Picture this. It's November 1932, Western Australia. The Australian military, real soldiers with real machine guns, are being deployed to the countryside. Their mission? To fight an enemy that's invaded farmland, destroyed crops, and terrorized local communities. The government has declared this a military operation. They've assigned soldiers, weapons, and ammunition. This is serious. The enemy? Emus, 20,000 large, flightless birds. Yes, you read that right. The Australian government declared war on birds. And here's the crazy part. The birds won. This is the story of the Great Emu War of 1932, one of the most absurd, embarrassing, and genuinely hilarious military operations in modern history. It's the time Australia's army got absolutely humiliated by a bunch of oversized chickens, and it's completely 100% real. Let me take you back to 1932. Australia is in the grip of the Great Depression. Times are tough everywhere, but especially for farmers in Western Australia. These are World War I veterans who were given land by the government as a reward for their service. They were told, go farm, build a life, feed the nation. So they did. They cleared land, they planted wheat, they worked hard. And by 1932, they're finally seeing results. The wheat fields are growing, harvest time is approaching, things are looking up. Then the emus arrive. Now let me tell you about emus. They're Australia's largest native bird, about 6 feet tall, weighing up to 120 pounds. They can't fly, but they can run up to 30 miles per hour. They have powerful legs that can kick hard enough to break bones. And they travel in massive flocks, sometimes thousands at a time. Every year, emus migrate inland from the coast to find food and water. In 1932, after an unusually dry season, about 20,000 emus decide that the wheat fields of Western Australia look like a perfect buffet, and they descend on the farms like a feathered plague. The farmers are horrified. These birds aren't just eating wheat, they're destroying everything. They knock down fences, trample crops, drink from water supplies meant for livestock. Thousands of birds moving through your fields like locusts, eating everything in sight. The farmers try everything to stop them. Scarecrows, noisemakers, shooting individual birds with rifles. Nothing works. The emus just keep coming. The farmers are desperate. They're gonna lose their entire harvest. Their livelihoods are being destroyed by birds. So they go to the government and say, we need help, send the military. Now you'd think the government would say, you want us to send soldiers to fight birds. That's ridiculous. But remember, these farmers are war veterans. They have political connections. And Australia in 1932 is dealing with public unrest. The government wants to keep the veterans happy. So the Minister of Defense, Sir George Pearce, makes a decision that will haunt him forever. He approves a military operation against the emus. He assigns soldiers, provides machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition, and tells them, go kill some birds. On November 2, 1932, the Great Emu War officially begins. The military sends a small force, Major G.P.W. Meredith, Sergeant S. McMurray, and Gunner J. O'Halloran. They bring 2 Lewis machine guns, serious military hardware capable of firing 500 rounds per minute. These are weapons designed for warfare, for killing enemy soldiers, and they're about to use them on birds. The soldiers arrive in Campion, Western Australia, confident. How hard can it be? They're trained military personnel with automatic weapons. The emus are just birds. This should be over in a few days. Day 1 of the operation, the soldiers spot a group of about 50 emus. They set up their machine guns and wait for the birds to get closer. When the emus are in range, they open fire. The emus immediately scatter. They don't run in a panic. They split up into small groups and run in different directions at high speed. The soldiers manage to kill maybe a dozen birds before the rest escape. It's not impressive. They've used hundreds of rounds of ammunition to kill 12 birds. But okay, day 1, they're still learning. Tomorrow will be better. Day 2, the soldiers try a different approach. They mount one of the machine guns on a truck and try to chase the emus while shooting. This should work, right? Mobile firepower. It doesn't work. The truck can't keep up with the emus on rough terrain. The birds are faster and more agile than a vehicle. When the soldiers do get close enough to fire, the truck is bouncing so much that they can't aim properly. They're shooting wildly, hitting almost nothing. Oh, and at one point the truck breaks down. The emus just stand there watching the soldiers try to fix it, then casually wander away. Day 3, Major Meredith is getting frustrated. These birds are supposed to be stupid. They're supposed to be easy targets, but they're not. Every time the soldiers get close, the emus split up and run. They seem to have figured out that the machine guns have a limited range, and that if they spread out, the soldiers can't kill many of them at once. The emus are using tactics, military tactics, against trained soldiers. After a week of operations, the military has used thousands of rounds of ammunition and killed maybe 50 emus out of 20,000. That's a success rate of 0.25%. The Australian government is spending a fortune on ammunition to kill a handful of birds. The media catches wind of the operation and has an absolute field day. Newspapers start running headlines like "Emus win battle and army defeated by birds." Ornithologists are interviewed and they're trying not to laugh as they explain that emus are actually quite intelligent and adaptable. One journalist writes, "The emus have proved that they are not so stupid as they have been made out to be. Each mob has a leader, usually a big black-faced bird standing about 6 feet high. He keeps watch while the others eat. At the first sign of danger, he gives a signal, and the mob immediately scatters." The soldiers are being compared to the emus, and the emus are coming out ahead. Major Meredith gives a press interview trying to defend the operation. He says, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks. They are like Zulus, whom even dum-dum bullets could not stop." He's comparing emus to one of the most formidable warrior cultures in history, to justify why his soldiers can't shoot birds. The government is embarrassed. The military is embarrassed. The Minister of Defense is being mocked in Parliament. Members of Parliament are literally making jokes about the army losing to birds. After 2 weeks and 2,500 rounds of ammunition spent, the official kill count is somewhere between 50 and 200 emus. Accounts vary. Either way, it's pathetic. The military operation is suspended on November 8, 1932. Major Meredith returns to base in disgrace. The machine guns are withdrawn. The Great Emu War is over. Australia lost. But the story doesn't end there, because the emus are still destroying crops. The farmers are still desperate, so they lobby the government again. "Send the soldiers back. We need help." Unbelievably, the government agrees. In December 1932, they launch a second emu campaign. This time, the soldiers are more strategic. They've learned from the first disaster. Instead of chasing large flocks, they set up ambushes. They wait near water sources where emus gather. They're more patient, more tactical. And it works slightly better. Over the course of several weeks, they kill around 1,000 emus. That's actually a decent number, but they use over 9,000 rounds of ammunition to do it. That's 9 bullets per bird. For comparison, a skilled hunter should be able to kill an emu with one well-placed shot. The kill-to-bullet ratio is abysmal. The operation is costing the government more money than the emus are costing the farmers. It's economically insane. By late December, the military withdraws again. The second emu campaign ends, and this time the government says, "We're done. No more military operations against emus. Figure something else out." The farmers are left to deal with the emus themselves. The government offers bounties instead, pay for every emu killed. Over the next few years, farmers and hunters kill thousands of emus using this system. It's far more effective than the military operation. But the damage to Australia's reputation is done. The Great Emu War becomes international news. Newspapers around the world mock Australia, the country that lost a war to birds. It's humiliating. And it's fair, because Australia did lose a war to birds. So what went wrong? How did a modern military with automatic weapons lose to a bunch of flightless birds? Several reasons. First, emus are surprisingly resilient. They're tough animals with thick skin and bones. Machine gun bullets, which are designed to penetrate human flesh, don't always kill emus instantly. You have to hit vital organs. Many emus that were shot kept running. Second, emus are fast and smart. They learned quickly that machine gun fire was dangerous. They developed strategies spreading out, posting lookouts, running in zigzag patterns. They adapted to the threat. Third, the terrain favored the emus. Western Australia's farmland is vast, open and rough. The emus could see the soldiers coming from far away and had plenty of space to run. The soldiers, meanwhile, struggled with the heat, the distance and the lack of cover. Fourth, the mission was fundamentally flawed. You can't fight a guerrilla war against 20,000 highly mobile targets spread across thousands of square miles with 2 machine guns and a handful of soldiers. The logistics don't work. But the biggest reason Australia lost: pride. The military and government were too proud to admit the operation was stupid from the start. Instead of calling it off immediately and finding a better solution, they kept trying to win a war that couldn't be won. They threw good money after bad, wasted ammunition and embarrassed themselves internationally. The Great Emu War is now a permanent part of Australian history and culture. It's taught in schools not as a military history lesson, but as a lesson in hubris and poor planning. It's referenced in comedy shows, memes, and pub conversations. Australians have mostly embraced it as a funny, embarrassing moment in their past. There's even a memorial of sorts. In Chandler, Western Australia, there's a statue of an emu with a plaque that jokingly commemorates the war. Tourists visit it to take photos. It's become a source of national humor rather than shame. But let's be real, Australia lost a war to birds. That's not something you can spin. No amount of PR can change the fact that the Australian military deployed soldiers with machine guns to fight emus, and the emus won. The emus didn't just survive, they thrived. The population remains strong today. Every year they still migrate through parts of Western Australia. Farmers have learned to coexist with them using better fencing, controlled hunting, and non-military methods. And the emus, they have no idea they're famous. They're just living their lives, eating wheat, running around, being birds, completely unaware that they once defeated one of the world's military forces. There are lessons in the Great Emu War about hubris, thinking a problem is simple when it's not, about resource allocation, spending money on a flashy solution instead of a practical one, about adaptability. The emus adapted to the threat faster than the military adapted to the emus. But mostly the Great Emu War is a reminder that sometimes the universe has a sense of humor, sometimes the mighty fall, sometimes the underdog wins, and sometimes that underdog is a 6-foot-tall flightless bird that doesn't even know it's in a war. The Great Emu War lasted less than a month. The emus suffered minimal casualties compared to their population. The Australian military withdrew in defeat. The government spent thousands of pounds and thousands of rounds of ammunition, and what did they accomplish? They made Australia a global laughingstock and proved that emus are tougher than they look. In 2019, an Australian comedian summarized it perfectly. We're the only country that lost a war to our national bird. Not even a cool bird like an eagle, a big chicken. And he's right. Australia lost a war to big chickens. And those big chickens didn't even know they were fighting. That's the Great Emu War, one of the most ridiculous military operations in history, a month-long embarrassment that Australia will never live down, and proof that sometimes nature doesn't care about your machine guns. The emus remain undefeated.